Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. It's Monday, March 1st. Welcome to the month of March. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thanks for choosing to be here for your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We start with big breaking news out of Governor Mike DeWine's press conference this afternoon. The state of Ohio is now expanding both Phase 1C and beginning Phase 2 of the vaccination process here in the state of Ohio. And this will include about 1 million more Ohioans in total. Phase 1C will now be expanded to include people living with type 1 diabetes, women who are pregnant, people who have received bone marrow transplants, and people living with ALS, and also individuals who work in law enforcement. That includes state and federal law enforcement, people who work in child care services, and people who work in funeral care services. So that's the expansion of Phase 1C. And then Phase 2 will include Ohioans who are ages 60 and older. So opening that up for the ages 60 to 65. And all of this takes effect on Thursday this week, Thursday, March 4th. So under that Phase 1C, that expansion of that group, that's about 246,000 more Ohioans. And then bringing in the Phase 2, which is Ohioans 60 and older, that's almost 700,000 Ohioans. So add that together, about 1 million more Ohioans. Also, out of Governor DeWine's press conference, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which received emergency use authorization from the FDA this weekend, will be sent to more than 200 independent pharmacies here in Ohio. And the thought is in the coming week, Ohio could get as much as 400,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So we will be reporting on that. Make sure you stay with WKYC.com for all the coverage on the updates of how many of those Johnson & Johnson doses we will get here in Ohio. More news out of Governor Mike DeWine's press conference. The Ohio Jobs and Family Services Director, Kim Henderson, is stepping down. Now, she was appointed by Governor Mike DeWine in January of 2019, so there will now be a national search to begin to look for her replacement. The reason that was given for her stepping down is that she'll be moving to North Carolina, recently married with her new spouse. So she said she enjoyed her time here, thanked DeWine for appointing her and for her time in service here, and she'll be moving on to something else. So again, national search beginning for that. And those are the top updates out of Governor Mike DeWine's press conference today, the first one in March. In other news, a Euclid police officer has been indicted for alleged sex crimes, and those include attempted rape, and this is stemming from an incident that allegedly involved a minor. The Euclid Police Department got a complaint on November 8th against Officer Donald Ivory. An investigation underwent, and the complaint alleged criminal wrongdoing involving a minor, and this was while the officer was off duty. And we have now learned that the Cuyahoga County grand jury indicted Ivory on 7 counts. Those counts are 1 count of attempted rape, 3 counts of gross sexual imposition, 1 count of disseminating matter harmful to juveniles, 1 count of tampering with evidence, and 1 count of intimidation of a victim. Ivory has been placed on unpaid administrative leave, and the case will be handled by the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. We'll give you updates as those come in. We also learned over the weekend from the Ohio Sheriff's Office that 5 Northeast Ohio bars have now been cited for violating health orders related to COVID-19. Those bars are Waterbury Coach House in Lakewood, Ashtabula County's the Colebrook Lounge, and these last 3 officers said in their reports had about 200 or more people. And all of these bars, by the way, have been cited for not having proper distancing in the establishments. And so these next ones, again, over 200 people in the bars. The Harvest Saloon in Strongsville, as well as Rookie's Sports Bar and Grill in Parma, and Sky Mediterranean in Parma Heights. And that last one, the officers were called there because of fights that were breaking out, and that's when they noticed the lack of social distancing. And at that particular last one, officers said there were 200 to 300 people inside. So as the numbers go down, something to keep in mind, we need to maintain our vigilance. That's according to the doctors, according to the experts. They are saying this is not the time to let the guard down. We need to be vigilant and make sure that we're still doing what we need to do to stop the spread of COVID-19. On that note, let's take a look at the numbers. The numbers come from Johns Hopkins University on the global and national level. So globally, the total number of reported COVID cases is now at 114,302,776. And the total number of deaths is now at 2,534,921. Now, here in the U.S., we have 4% of the global population, but we have a much larger percentage of the number of cases and deaths. In the U.S., we have 25% of the reported COVID cases and 20.3% of the reported COVID deaths. Those numbers are 28,618,081 reported cases in the U.S. and 513,510 reported deaths in the U.S. Here in Ohio, the numbers are in from the Ohio Department of Health. In the last 24 hours, we've seen 1,452 new reported cases of COVID, and unfortunately, 49 new reported deaths related to COVID coming into the Ohio Department of Health in the last 24 hours. Taking a look at the tests that are being done and how many of those are coming back positive. As of Saturday, 3.8% of about 23,000 tests came back positive, so about 732 positive cases on Saturday. The 7-day average is at 4% for positive cases coming back from testing. Now, in the last 24 hours, we've seen 103 new hospitalizations related to COVID, and we currently have 1,181 people in the hospital. Now, this is significant. It's up 20 from yesterday, and that's the first increase that we've seen in 2 weeks in the active number of hospitalizations. Over the weekend, we also saw the first increase in active people in the ICU. Today, there are 295 people being treated in the ICU for COVID. Yesterday, there were 315. And there were 312 on Saturday. So let me run that back for you. I know those are a little out of order. It would be a little bit confusing. 312 people were in the ICU on Saturday. 315 people were in the ICU on Sunday. So there's the increase. That's the first increase we've seen in the number of people in the ICU in the past 2 weeks. And then today it's down again at 295. And in the last 24 hours, we've seen 14 new ICU admissions related to COVID-19. Taking a look at the number of people vaccinated, right now in the state of Ohio, there are about 912,000 people who are fully vaccinated. So they've gotten both shots from both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. That's about 7.8% of our population. And almost 28,000 more people have begun and have gotten fully vaccinated in the last day. As for the number of people who have started the vaccination process, that's about 1.7 million now, and that's about 14.4% of our Ohio population. So you put those two numbers together, we've got almost a quarter of our Ohio population vaccinated, and that starts to sound pretty good, especially when we've got a vaccine coming that is just one dose. So those numbers will go up quickly, assuming all goes well with the delivery of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine here in Ohio. Now, we know that restaurants have been impacted greatly by the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, one of the popular chefs in the area is doing something a little bit different about that. Chef Douglas Katz, you might know him from the popular Eastside location Fire that he had to close because of the pandemic. Well, he's doing something different now. He's got something called ghost kitchens. And the concept here is there's no indoor dining. It's just a kitchen. He's running it out of his catering kitchen in Cleveland Heights, and he's got two concepts that he's got, amba and chimney. And that's it. No dining room. You order online, you get an address, and you pick it up, and you can also opt for delivery if you are in their delivery zone. Here's what Kat said. He said they thought that they could create these concepts that they've only dreamed about and launch them as these ghost kitchens. He says, I thought that we could do this, so we at least had to try, and that you have to change with the times. And certainly he's optimistic about the future of the restaurant industry and what's ahead because they've learned so much. So what he did here was he took the opportunity of not having a physical indoor dining space to try out some things that he'd been wanting to try out. And apparently, it's gone pretty well because he said post-pandemic, he's hoping to open brick-and-mortar locations for amba and chimney, and that he's already found a space for amba, which is Indian cuisine. That's his Indian concept. And they're hoping to launch that in November. So keep an eye out on from Chef Douglas Katz, his ghost kitchen turning into a full kitchen here in the Northeast Ohio area. Now, in Beachwood, they're getting creative with food delivery. For the past 3 months, they've been doing fee-free restaurant delivery, and this is something that's been funded by the city's economic development sector. And this is the first program of its kind in the country. So Northeast Ohio, really on the cutting edge here. Participating restaurants, they don't pay a delivery or a service fee whatsoever. The concept is called Beachwood Delivers. And what it is city contracted drivers deliver Beachwood restaurant orders to local addresses. And it's saved about $56,000 for restaurant owners. And also it's been $56,000 in restaurant deliveries over the past 3 months. And it's saved about $17,000 for restaurants and about $30,000 in menu upcharges for customers. How it works is if you're in the Beachwood area and you order from a participating restaurant, the minimum order is $25. You call the restaurant then calls the city dispatchers to arrange for the delivery. You get a text message update while your food is being prepared and eventually delivered, and it's available from 4 to 8 p.m., so it seems to be working out. So they're continuing that through the month of March in Beachwood, they've announced. All right. This is something we've been following. The J.J. Watt beat. He announced today on Twitter that he is signing with the Arizona Cardinals. He posted a photo of himself working out in an Arizona Cardinals t-shirt, and he just wrote, "Source me." So he was the one breaking the news about where he decided to sign. So apparently he won't be here in Cleveland. He will be in Arizona after leaving the Houston Texans. Now, according to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, the contract is for 2 years for $31 million, and $23 million of that is guaranteed. So that's what's going on with J.J. Watt. So that means that the Cleveland Browns are still in the market for a defensive end, and our 3 News sports analyst Ben Axelrod is breaking down some of the possible prospects. Of course, J.J. Watt was on that list, but he is no longer. So one person on that list is pretty close to home, Carl Lawson, who is with the Cincinnati Bengals. And he could be an exception to the rule of being a young, high-end pass rusher hitting the free agent market. He's been with Cincinnati for 4 seasons. He's had 20 sacks and 83 QB hits, and Pro Football Focus ranks him as the league's 14th edge defender for last season. Another possibility, Trey Hendrickson of the New Orleans Saints. Now, this is a story that a lot of teams will be looking at, especially with the NFL salary cap being lowered next season because of COVID costs and because of income situations related to COVID. The New Orleans Saints have sort of a crowded salary cap situation right now, so they won't be able to re-sign some of their key free agents. It's what it's looking like, and that could potentially mean that Trey Hendrickson could be available. He's 26 years old, and he's ranked by Pro Football Focus as the number 28 edge defender in 2020. That's a possibility. For more on that, check our article on WKYC.com. Again, that's from 3 News sports analyst Ben Axelrod. And one more cool story to let you know about before we go. This is a 3 News exclusive. Northeast Ohio has been selected to film a new Netflix movie starring Adam Driver. You might remember Adam Driver from Marriage Story, or maybe from Star Wars The Force Awakens. Well, he'll be starring in a new Netflix film with Greta Gerwig from Lady Bird, and it'll be directed by Noah Baumbach, who also directed Marriage Story. And this is an adaptation of the novel White Noise by Don DeLillo, and in it, Driver will play a college professor who focuses on Hitler studies at a small liberal arts college in Middle America, and then there's an explosion that unleashes a toxic chemical, and he and his wife, played by Greta Gerwig, have to face all of that together. Now, according to the Ohio Development Services Agency, a Netflix production in Cleveland was approved last month for state tax credits valued at an estimated $23.8 million. So they're going to be making some savings by filming here in Ohio. And word on the street is that Netflix location scouts were seen in Hiram in Portage County, checking out the village and the campus of historic Hiram College. So maybe that's where it'll be. We'll be keeping our eyes glued to that, and we'll let you know as soon as we know. Okay, that is it for your 3 News Now update for Monday, March 1st. Everyone have a great afternoon, and I will see you next up on What's New at 5 p.m. with your trending stories in Clicking in Cleveland. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.